electric scooters. Denver's new robot overlords, they have a hidden weakness, a way for the city to control where they go. There are nearly 3,000 of them on the streets and the sidewalks and the lawns. We've learned the city already has scooter companies blocking out some no-go zones. They use GPS. You take a scooter there, it won't scoot anymore. Steve Steger explains.
With Lyft is now disabling the propulsion within the 16th Street Mall.
Not gonna lie, this is the part of today's meeting where I looked up from my phone. We learned today that several scooter companies are using GPS technology to shut scooters down in certain areas. More specifically, the 16th Street Mall, the plaza in front of Union Station, and the area around Coors Field before, during, and after Rockies games. Lyft and spin scooters shut off in those areas. Bird scooters slow down. I asked a spokeswoman for Public Works to explain it all.
Oh, it's called geofencing. So it's a location-based service in which an app uses GPS or other kind of software to trigger a pre-programmed action. There's this virtual boundary that's set when they're entering or exiting that area, and it causes them to either disable or the scooter will start slowing down its speed automatically.
Public Works says as it moves forward, it may require companies to use this technology in certain areas in order to operate within the city. And we also learned the city may look at slowing scooters down.
We've seen other cities, I believe Washington, D.C. has limited them to 10 miles an hour.
Using a digital governor to essentially limit the speed of all commercial electronic scooters. Public Works says there are mixed theories on whether or not limits are effective.
But that's absolutely something we're considering, and that's absolutely something that the technology is available.
So the purpose of today's meeting, to pass along an ordinance to City Council that would essentially say that these are exactly the same as a bicycle and ride in the same place where a bicycle can ride. The hope is to clear up confusion for Denver police who have to enforce this down the road. It's going to be an interesting debate.
How are you out of breath? You're on a scooter.
I was a little nervous.
No, I understand. So what you're saying is if the scooter companies wanted to, say, make the inside of 9 News a no-go zone via GPS, they could conceivably do that.
This thing would not work. If I wrote it into 9 News, it would start saying, like, slowing down, and then it wouldn't propel anymore. But for now, it works.
Oh. Okay, all right, there you go. I have to say, all the years of this program, that is one of the most ridiculous things you've done, and I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Steve Steger. Students in Aurora went back to school today. Douglas County students, they go back tomorrow. It's just that time of the year. But in Douglas County, that includes the STEM school Highlands Ranch students. It has been 3 months now since one of their classmates, Kendra Castillo, was killed when police say other classmates came into the room and started shooting. We sat down with some classmates today to talk about their hope for this school year.
I'm very excited to go back to school. I think we were all talking about earlier how we're not victims, we're normal high schoolers, and we're very eager to continue our lives.
Yeah, I feel like if we hold on to it too long and we let it change everything, then I think in a way we have let them win.
Kendra Castillo is still remembered. His memory is still honored again and again. Today, by the Knights of Columbus at their national convention in Minnesota. Kendrick's parents were there for the moment. President Trump is calling for a red flag gun control law. Colorado's conservative sheriffs call our red flag gun control law unconstitutional. But as we tick closer to January 1st, when Colorado's law goes into effect, you want to know what those sheriffs in opposition are doing privately? They're figuring out how they'll enforce the law. Our Nusha Roy shows us how a controversial law is being shaped behind the scenes.
The red flag law would allow family or law enforcement to ask a judge to sign off on a court order to temporarily take guns away from someone who could hurt themselves or other people. Now the question is, how will it be carried out? There's going to be a suggested state policy the agencies can follow, or individual departments can make up their own. It's not unusual, but it is interesting, since different agencies have different interpretations of how this law works. That includes the very crux of this law. When can law enforcement take guns away if the person in question doesn't voluntarily give them up? The sheriff in Weld County has said he won't enforce the law, but today told us he is still working on an internal policy. The way he looks at it is if a judge sides with a family and the person in question doesn't voluntarily give up their guns, he believes the courts should deal with it. If his deputies took the guns at all, it would only be for evidence if that person is arrested. The Douglas County Sheriff disagrees. He has been a long champion of this law and says if a person holds on to their guns when they aren't supposed to, it's law enforcement's responsibility to take them and secure them, which is why he says it's important to have a thought-out process on how to do that safely.
So the Will County Sheriff is just hoping the lawsuit that's going on right now will stop the law altogether. Hasn't stopped work on the policies. That has to be done by December. And the assumption, Kyle, is that all those gray areas people have been talking about will probably get sorted out in court in the coming months.
We get a lot of feedback on social media and via email, Anusha, where people say if cities run by Democrats can ignore immigration law on the federal level, why is it that these county sheriffs can't ignore the state law?
I would say the critical difference here is we are talking about a law that was signed by the governor in April, and the idea for law enforcement, right, is their primary responsibility is to uphold and carry out that law.
In this case, they'd be defying a judge's order, which does not come into contention when you're talking about immigration agents. All right. Thank you, Anusha. A thoughtful contribution to our conversation about mass shootings is my recommended read for you today. John Temple, maybe you know that name. He led the Rocky Mountain News before it closed, and he has a new piece in The Atlantic about what he calls the limits of journalism. Temple covered the Columbine shooting. He was sure that Columbine would change everything in America. It, of course, did not. Temple talks about how our coverage of mass shootings has become a sort of ritual. A ritual that shows the limits of journalism and of hope. There's a link to Temple's full article on the next Facebook page. So much of the national talk this week about gun control is about policies that we already have in Colorado. Ohio's Republican governor was out today saying that he wants background checks. Well, we have them here. A red flag law, we have that here in Colorado. Other states want to close the gun show loophole. Colorado did that. You don't hear as many people on the national level asking whether all that gun control has made a difference in Colorado. Former Governor John Hickenlooper, unsurprisingly, will tell you that it has. Now, you have to remember, Hickenlooper was basically dragged by his own party, Democrats, in order to sign these gun control bills. Well, now it's a signature of his struggling presidential campaign. Considering that Colorado has had mass shootings since Hickenlooper signed background checks and a magazine limit, he was asked whether those laws have succeeded.
Ultimately, our success is going to be measured over longer periods of time than most of us are comfortable with, and yet that's the way it should be. Over the next 20 years, is Colorado going to be safer because we have universal background checks for every gun purchase, because we limited magazine capacities before most other states did? I think it will be safer.
Republicans in Washington are going to decide what, if any, kind of additional gun control is even brought up for a vote at the national level. We're still hoping to talk with Colorado's Republican Senator Cory Gardner about that. His staff and his campaign team are not acknowledging our request for an interview. Perhaps Senator Gardner's team isn't talking to us because they are so busy talking to you. Because a political ad that's on our air and elsewhere urges all of you to light up Gardner's phones. A number of you have been asking us about it, so our politics guy Marshall Zellinger is making it our next question.
Estella, Steve, Robert, Brian, Chris, Paul, Linda, all of you wrote to Next wanting to know who is behind this political ad.
A surprise medical bill can be traumatic.
The short answer is doctor-patient unity, and according to these FCC records, they're spending lots of money. $108,000 to air the ad 98 times on 9 News from July 29th through tomorrow. $70,000 for 87 spins on Channel 4. $29,000 for 24 spots on Fox 31, and $10,000 for 19 commercial spots on Channel 7. But where did doctor-patient unity get the money? Unfortunately, I have to give you a shrug. Yeah, this station airing the ad can't tell you who they are. Why? Federal election laws don't require them to tell us. But I found a clue with these documents filed with the Denver TV stations. A phone number. It leads to this guy in Virginia. The bio for Kyle Roberts lists him as one of the top Republican media strategists in the nation. Republican media strategist? Hang on. The website Open Secrets shows that doctor-patient unity has spent $2 million to air ads targeting 11 senators, including 8 Republicans. Like Colorado's Cory Gardner.
Tell Senator Gardner to choose patience. and vote no on rate setting.
Okay, what about the content of this ad? What is rate setting? Our own Chris Vanderveen tried to address that very subject earlier this year.
What about the ER doc?
Going to have to operate.
Or that surgical assistant?
As described in this animation, an out-of-network doctor can pretty much charge whatever they want. Rate setting would put a cap on out-of-network billing. How about the website for doctor-patient unity? What did it tell us? It does have that About section, but one thing, doctor-patient unity, your About section is lacking the About part. No detail about who's behind it. So how about Colorado's new law that we told you will pull back the curtain on dark money ads like this? It doesn't apply, Kyle. This is a federal ad targeting a U.S. senator, and the Colorado law change is for state races and issues, not who we send to D.C.
That looks like a lot of work, but you rattled their cage today, Marshall. That's what you did.
I hope so.
Thank you, sir.
John was just such a gentle, kind soul.
A humble legend of Colorado news has died.
He very much cared about both journalism and the club and the community.
We look back at the life of John Ensland, who proved you can come home again. And once more, you lead us in search of the proper pronunciation of a Colorado place name that's up for debate. Next.
Dry and hot for Denver today. All our moisture out on the eastern plains. Right now we've got partly cloudy skies as we take a live view from Lookout Mountain. Out to the east is where the thunderstorms are moving. They're getting ready to push out of the state and are no longer severe, but hail, wind, and heavy rain all came down across Kit Carson out near Burlington. Tomorrow, we've got a better chance for severe weather in northeast Colorado. That's where a marginal risk for severe weather will be. Denver, just a chance for general thunderstorms, but a better chance for those storms around here tomorrow than what we saw today. Tonight, we'll drop to 64 with mostly clear skies, southwesterly winds at 5 to 10 miles per hour. Couple of outdoor activities, big concerts, in fact, coming up at the end of this week, and the forecast doesn't look that great. We'll see some isolated storms tomorrow with a high of 90. Thursday and Friday, scattered showers and thunderstorms late in the day. Highs a little bit cooler in the middle 80s. And even over the weekend, we'll see chances for some isolated storms. Most of these come late with highs. Kyle, back in the upper 80s.
Thank you, Becky. John Ensland was the kind of guy that you would want explaining the world, or at least explaining Denver politics to you. He was smart and curious and kind. The veteran journalist who covered our state for decades passed away at the age of 65. Ensland wrote for the Rocky for 25 years, and then he moved to New Jersey, covered news there, but came back to write for our partners at Colorado Politics, and he participated in our 9 News mayoral debates. Ensland for years was the driving force behind the Denver Press Club, where he was remembered today.
We are in the historic Denver Press Club. The club itself has existed since 1867. In fact, we're the nation's oldest press club. We've called this place our home since 1925. I'm Dan Petty, president of the Denver Press Club. John was dedicated to ensuring that not only did we have community among journalists and professionals and lawyers and politicians, media people, he wanted to make sure that we had an actual physical gathering place and talk about the issues of the day.
My name is Tom Fouch. I'm the general manager of the Denver Press Club. John would come in every day. He would walk down. He almost used this as an office. He would sit at the table right behind me. His caricature would be right above him, and he would conduct his phone interviews. He would work on his computer for those projects he was working on for Colorado Politics.
My name is Bruce Goldberg, freelance writer and copy editor. John, on the one hand, was an old-time journalist, and I mean that in the good sense, asking tough questions. John was one of the gentlest, kindest, most compassionate souls, but he was also tough as nails when the occasion called for it.
He cared deeply about the traditions of this place. He wanted to see it preserved, and he dedicated so much of his time in his life to making sure that that would happen.
He was always so welcoming when he was here, and it's a big loss for not just the journalism community, but for Denver and for Colorado.
I'm not sure if you can tell from the sweat, but I'm not very good at showing lambs. And there's a place in Colorado that starts with a K. It had you asking, what do you say? So we asked the woman who knows. Next.
Did anybody guess Lake Loveland? That was kind of a tough one. All right, let's play What Do You Say? We're going to settle another pronunciation debate. This time, we're talking about a small town in Weld County. One light town, about 1,000 residents, and a name that starts with a K. Next viewers Tim and Judy asked us to set everybody straight on how to say it, so we reached out to the town's museum to ask, what do you say?
Kersey is pronounced Kersey, as though it had a Z in it. Originally, it was called Orr, Colorado, but the name Orr was too close to the name of other Orr cities. The Union Pacific Railroad decided. So Jesse Kersey Painter, who was our first station master here, he submitted his mother's maiden name, which was Kersey, and then the stop became known as Kersey.
Kersey, home to Colorado's most famous cowboy, Bruce Ford, first professional cowboy in the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame. All right, where do we head next to settle a debate about how to pronounce this or that in our state? Email next@9news.com or get our attention with the hashtag #HeyNext. So, you know, this is county fair season across Colorado. It's a chance for Colorado's farming and ranching families, all those 4-H and FFA kids, to show off their skill and their passion to their neighbors. One farmer, several generations removed from his youth, told me on Saturday at the Adams County Fair that what farmers and ranchers do for a living is a dying art these days. Tough to argue with that. But just one barn over, a group of smart, dedicated young people were so overflowing with knowledge and excitement about their animals that they were willing to teach people who knew nothing, like me. This is kind of a roundabout way to tell you that I showed a lamb over the weekend, and it was a total sheep show. A bunch of people who do other things for a living, like TV and politics and police work and firefighters. We tried to handle lambs in the ring at the Adams County Fair after just a few minutes of instruction from some very patient young people. This is a scholarship fundraiser for 4-H that they do every year. Nyla, my young teacher, second year we've worked together, she's fantastic. The lamb, Cosmos, tolerated my ineptitude as we circled the ring, and the judge quizzed us about our sheep knowledge, which I will warn you was limited. At the end of the day, it was really not about who won and who lost. None of that mattered, and I mean, it would almost be unseemly to mention it here. Because this was a chance to remind Colorado's farm and ranch families and all of those kids of 4-H and FFA that we appreciate their hard work and dedication. Colorado literally would not be the same without them. Next here, a special word about the 3 years we've spent together. Quick personal note before we go. Thank you. This has been an unexpected journey together for the last 3 years on Next. Because, I mean, let's face it, we both thought the show was going to get canceled long ago, right? But you kept your feedback coming. Our team tried to use that to make this into the program you wanted to see on TV. You kept your criticism coming, and we used that to challenge our team to do better every day. And you kept coming back to give us your valuable time night after night. And that is why we're still here on the air. For how much longer? I don't know. How long do you want us around for? We are already working on some stories that we hope will make you think and laugh and maybe even mix it up with us for next time.